Look
There are
closely,
moments
Maya.
in life
Every one of
when
these
you
photographs
realize
shows
you've
the same
crossed a
abandoned
line
wing.
you can never
And the same
uncross.
shadow.
For
Someone has been
Dr.
trying to
Maya
tell us
Bennett,
this story for
that
years.
moment wasn't when she opened room 12.
The shadow is
It
in
wasn't when
every
she
single
found the
one.
hidden recorder.
It's
It wasn't
following
even when
him.
the tape disappeared from her locked office. It was the moment she understood. Someone was no longer hiding from her. They were watching her. Every move, every question, every step she took toward the truth. The storm arrived just after sunset. Rain lashed against Harbor Point's enormous glass windows, turning the peaceful rehabilitation center into a fortress surrounded by darkness. Most of the patients had already settled into their rooms. The daytime staff had gone home. Only a handful of nurses remained on duty. The building felt different, quieter, almost as if it were holding its breath. Maya sat alone in her office, studying the 4 anonymous photographs spread across her desk. She compared every detail, every shadow, every face, every reflection. The blurred figure appeared in each one, always watching, always standing near the old East Wing. Room 12. No matter how hard she looked, she couldn't identify the person. Then, something else caught her attention. She leaned closer. One photograph showed an old wall clock hanging behind a group of patients. Its hands were frozen. 9:17. She reached for the second photograph. Another clock. Different year. Different wall. Again. 9:17. Her heartbeat quickened. The third picture. Another clock. Still. 9:17. She immediately grabbed the fourth. Exactly the same. Every photograph had been taken years apart. Yet every visible clock showed. 9:17. That wasn't chance. Someone wanted her to notice. But what happened at 9:17? The next morning, Maya arrived before sunrise. Instead of heading to her office, she went straight to the hospital archives. The basement archive room hadn't been renovated in decades. Rows of metal cabinets stretched into darkness. Old patient files filled dusty shelves from floor to ceiling. Paper records, handwritten notes, forgotten histories. If the answer existed anywhere, it would be here. The elderly archivist smiled politely. Looking for something specific, Doctor? Maya nodded. I need every maintenance report involving the East Wing. The woman frowned. The East Wing. Yes. She slowly adjusted her glasses. I haven't heard anyone ask about that section in years. 2 hours later, Maya sat surrounded by stacks of faded folders. Plumbing repairs, electrical inspections, structural reports. Nothing unusual. Until she found a maintenance request dated exactly 6 years earlier. Emergency power failure, East Wing. She opened the report. According to the document, every clock in the East Wing had stopped at 9:17 p.m. Her eyes widened. The maintenance report blamed an electrical surge caused by severe weather. Case closed. Nothing suspicious, except someone had handwritten a note across the bottom of the page. Do not reopen until clearance is approved. There was no signature, no approval date, no explanation, only those 7 words. That afternoon, Maya called Nolan. I found something. His voice became serious immediately. I'm on my way. An hour later, they stood together inside the archive room. Nolan carefully examined the maintenance report. Then he asked one simple question. Where's the incident report? Maya blinked. What incident report? He looked at her. If an entire hospital wing lost power during occupied patient care. He paused. Someone wrote an incident report. She searched the cabinet again. Nothing. The file was missing. Not misplaced. Removed. Nolan sighed quietly. Someone cleaned this place very carefully. As they prepared to leave, a loud metallic crash echoed from somewhere deep inside the basement. Both of them froze. The archivist looked up from her desk. Did you hear that? Another crash. Closer this time. Nolan motioned for Maya to stay behind him. The two of them slowly followed the sound through the dim storage aisles. Metal shelves stretched endlessly in every direction. Dust floated through the flashlight beams. Everything was silent. Then, a cabinet door slammed shut on its own. Maya jumped. Nolan immediately opened it. Empty. No one. No movement. Only darkness. He frowned. Someone's here. A faint set of footsteps echoed somewhere ahead. Running. Nolan reacted instantly. Stay here. Before Maya could answer, he disappeared between the shelves. The sound of hurried footsteps grew louder, then faded. Silence. 30 seconds passed, then a minute. Finally, Nolan returned. Alone, breathing heavily. I lost them. You saw someone? He nodded. Black hooded jacket. Man, I couldn't tell. He looked frustrated. They knew this basement better than I do. Back in the archive office, the elderly archivist looked confused. I've worked here 23 years. She looked around nervously. I've never seen anyone run through these archives. Maya looked toward Nolan. Neither of them believed that was a coincidence. Someone had been searching for something, or making sure they didn't find it. Later that evening, Maya sat alone in her car outside Harbor Point. Rain drummed softly against the windshield. Her mind replayed everything. The missing tape, the deleted footage, the anonymous photographs, the frozen clocks, the missing report, the mysterious figure in the basement. Individually, none of it made sense. Together, it felt like pieces of a puzzle she couldn't yet see. She reached for her notebook. On a blank page, she wrote 4 words. Who benefit from silence? She stared at the question, then slowly circled one name. Ethan. She immediately crossed it out. No, she whispered. It can't be that simple, because if there was one thing Maya had learned, it was this. The obvious answer is almost never the real one. And somewhere inside Harbor Point, the person truly responsible had just realized Dr. Maya Bennett wasn't going to stop digging. Sometimes, the biggest secrets aren't buried underground. They're hidden in plain sight, inside documents that everyone assumes are ordinary. The morning after the break-in at the archives, Harbor Point looked exactly as it always had. Patients smiled. Doctors hurried through the hallways. The aroma of fresh coffee drifted from the staff lounge. It was almost unsettling how normal everything seemed, as if the building itself had perfected the art of pretending. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling that someone was now one step ahead of her. Whoever had entered the archives hadn't been looking for valuables. They had been protecting something, and that meant she was getting close. At 8:30 that morning, Nolan arrived carrying a long cardboard tube tucked beneath one arm. He placed it carefully on Maya's desk. I had a favor called in. Maya unrolled the contents. Architectural blueprints. Old ones, yellowed with age. Harbor Point Rehabilitation Center. Before the renovations. She immediately noticed something strange. The east wing is bigger. Nolan nodded. About 20% bigger. She traced the faded lines with her finger. But that's impossible. The building standing today doesn't match these plans. Nolan pointed to a rectangular section beneath room 12. There, a narrow staircase, descending below the ground floor. Maya frowned. I've worked here for 8 years. I know. I've never seen those stairs. You weren't supposed to. Silence settled between them. According to the original plans, an entire lower level existed beneath the east wing. Yet in the current building, there was no entrance, no chodwa, no mention of it in any maintenance records. It had simply disappeared. That afternoon, Maya walked the east wing alone. She counted every doorway, measured distances between walls, compared them with the blueprint. Something didn't add up. There should have been another hallway beyond room 12. Instead, there was only solid concrete. She tapped lightly against the wall. Most of it produced the dull sound of reinforced cement. Then, one section answered differently. A hollow echo. She tapped again. The sound was unmistakable. There was empty space behind the wall. Her pulse quickened. Before she could investigate further, a cheerful voice interrupted her. Dr. Bennett? She turned. It was Mr. Henry Lawson, one of Harbor Point's oldest patients. 83 years old. A retired history teacher recovering from hip surgery. Henry smiled warmly. I've been looking everywhere for you. Maya forced a smile. Everything all right? He nodded. Much better today. He hesitated, then lowered his voice. I heard you asking about room 12. Maya froze. I was just reviewing old building records. Henry's smile faded. I've been here before. She blinked. What do you mean? He looked toward the empty hallway. Not as a patient, as a visitor. Maya stared at him. It was many years ago. His eyes drifted toward the window. I remember the screams. A chill ran through her. Screams. Henry nodded slowly. They told everyone it was construction. His voice became almost a whisper. But construction doesn't sound like people begging for help. Before Maya could ask another question, Henry suddenly looked frightened. He glanced over her shoulder. His face lost all color. "No," he whispered. "They're still watching." Then, without another word, he turned his wheelchair and hurried away as quickly as he could. Maya watched him disappear around the corner. Confusion gave way to something much heavier. Fear. That evening, she and Nolan returned after visiting hours had ended. The hospital lights had dimmed. Security patrols followed their usual routes. Every movement had to be careful. Every sound mattered. Standing before the hollow wall, Nolan removed a small thermal scanner from his backpack. The screen glowed softly. There, a rectangular outline appeared beneath the paint, perfectly shaped, almost invisible to the naked eye. "A sealed doorway," Nolan whispered. Maya looked at him. "Can we open it?" He smiled faintly. "I was hoping you'd ask." From his tool bag, Nolan produced a thin inspection camera normally used to examine walls without causing damage. He carefully drilled a tiny opening no wider than a pencil. Inserted the camera. The small monitor flickered to life. At first, only darkness. Then, a staircase, dust-covered, descending into complete blackness. Maya felt her heartbeat pounding in her ears. It really exists. Nolan slowly guided the camera farther. The stairs ended at a steel door. Rust covered its surface. Across the center, faded red letters could still be read. Authorized personnel only. Then, the camera shifted. Something moved. Both of them froze. A shadow. Fust. Gone before either could understand what they had seen. Nolan slowly pulled the camera back. Neither spoke for several seconds. Finally, Maya whispered. When not alone, the following morning, she arrived to find Ethan waiting outside her office. He smiled as though nothing in the world was wrong. "Busy lately?" She returned the smile. "Just catching up on paperwork." He leaned casually against the doorway. "You've been spending a lot of time in the East Wing." The words struck her like ice. She kept her expression calm. "I've been reviewing some old patient files." Ethan nodded. "I wouldn't waste too much time over there." "Why?" He shrugged. "Old buildings have a way of making people imagine things." He smiled again, then walked away. Maya watched him disappear down the corridor. Only after he turned the corner did she realize something. She had never told anyone. She'd been in the East Wing. Not Lena, not the archivist, not even the nursing staff. Only Nolan knew. Yet somehow, Ethan knew too. Before we find out who sent those terrifying messages, I want to hear your theory. Do you think Ethan is hiding something? Or is someone using him to cover up an even bigger secret? Leave your answer in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you're enjoying this mystery, take a second to like this video and subscribe. The next chapter takes Maya somewhere no one has entered in years, and what she discovers beneath room 12 changes everything. Now, let's keep going. Late that night, Maya's phone buzzed. An unknown number. One text message. No greeting. No signature. Just 6 chilling words. "Stop asking about room 12. She stared at the screen. Another message arrived. "Next time, you won't be warned." The sender vanished before she could reply. Maya looked out the window. Across the parking lot, someone stood beneath a flickering streetlight. Watching her office, the figure never moved, never waved, never stepped closer. Then, the lights flickered. For just 1 second. Darkness. When the lights returned, the figure was gone. Some mysteries invite you to solve them. Others warn you to stay away. Maya had just received her warning. The problem was, she had never been very good at walking away from the truth. Fear has a purpose. It tells you when to run, when to hide, when to stay away from places that don't want to be found. But curiosity has a different purpose. It whispers one dangerous question. What if there's more? For Maya, that whisper had become impossible to ignore. The anonymous warning stayed on her phone all night. She read it again before sunrise. Stop asking about room 12. Simple, direct, personal. Whoever sent it knew exactly what she was investigating. More importantly, they knew how to reach her. She deleted nothing. Instead, she forwarded screenshots to Nolan. A minute later, her phone rang. I'm outside. The morning fog hung low over Harbor Point as Maya climbed into Nolan's truck. He placed a small metal case between them. Inside, flashlights, a compact crowbar, two-way radios, an air quality monitor, protective masks. Maya looked at him. You came prepared. Nolan smiled faintly. When someone warns me not to open a door. He closed the case. That's usually the first door I open. They waited. Patience mattered. The hospital bustled with activity until evening. Visitors came and went. Doctors finished rounds. Night shift nurses arrived. Security guards settled into their predictable routines. By 11:30 p.m., Harbor Point finally grew quiet. The perfect time. The east wing felt colder than the rest of the building. Every footstep echoed through the deserted corridor. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead. Neither of them spoke. Words felt too loud. Nolan unpacked the thermal scanner once more. The hidden doorway glowed faintly beneath layers of drywall. This is it. Maya took a slow breath. You ready? He nodded. On three. The crowbar slipped carefully into the narrow gap they'd created the previous night. Wood cracked. Dust drifted into the air. Another slow pull. Then, with a deep groan, the concealed panel shifted inward. Cold air rushed out. Not stale air. Fresh air. Moving air. Maya frowned. If this place has been sealed for years. She looked at Nolan. Why is there airflow? He didn't answer. He was wondering the same thing. Beyond the wall, the staircase descended into darkness. Concrete steps disappeared beneath shadows that swallowed the flashlight beams. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant. Not mold. Not decay. Disinfectant. Someone had cleaned this place. Recently, they exchanged a silent glance, then began walking down. Every step seemed louder than the last. The staircase twisted once, then ended before the rusted steel door they'd seen through the inspection camera. The faded warning remained. Authorized personnel only. Nolan reached for the handle. Locked. He examined the hinges. They've been replaced. Maya looked closer. The screws were spotless. No rust. No dust. Someone had installed them recently. He inserted a thin lockpick. 30 seconds passed. A quiet click echoed through the hallway. The door slowly opened. The room beyond wasn't what either of them expected. It wasn't abandoned. It was immaculate. Bright fluorescent lights switched on automatically as they entered. The floor gleamed. Metal shelves lined the walls. Computers, medical equipment, filing cabinets. Everything looked active, as though people had simply stepped out moments earlier. Maya stared in disbelief. This can't be real. Nolan slowly scanned the room. It gets worse. He pointed toward a digital calendar hanging beside one workstation. Today's date. Someone had been here. Today. Then they heard it. Footsteps. Above them. Not one person. Several. Moving quickly across the floor overhead. Maya whispered, "They know we're down here." Nolan switched off his flashlight. The room fell into darkness. Only the glow of computer monitors remained. A faint electronic hum filled the silence. One monitor suddenly awakened. Without anyone touching it, a login screen appeared. Then, the cursor began moving. On its own, letters slowly appeared across the screen. You should have left. Maya felt every hair on her arm stand up. Another sentence appeared. Turn around. Neither of them moved. The screen changed again. A live security camera feed filled the monitor. Maya gasped. It showed the room they were standing in. Someone was watching them. Right now, from somewhere else. Nolan quietly followed the camera cable across the floor. It disappeared into the ceiling. Control room. He whispered. Somewhere nearby. Before either of them could react, a loud metallic door slammed somewhere deeper underground. Then another. Heavy locks engaging. One after another. Boom. 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 The exits. Someone was sealing the level. Maya grabbed Nolan's arm. We need to go. He nodded. But before they reached the staircase, a faint voice echoed through the hidden corridor. Not shouting. Not whispering. Simply speaking. Calmly. Almost gently. Dr. Bennett. Maya froze. The voice continued. We've been waiting for you. Silence. Then, slow footsteps. Approaching. Steady. Unhurried. Invisible beyond the darkness. One step. Another. Closer. Closer. Nolan raised his flashlight. The beam pierced the darkness, revealing an empty hallway. No one. The footsteps stopped. Yet the voice came again. This time, right behind them. Don't leave. Maya spun around. Nothing. Only empty air. Her breathing became uneven. This isn't possible. Nolan grabbed her shoulder. We're leaving. Now. They hurried toward the staircase. Just as they reached the hidden doorway, Maya noticed something lying on the floor. A hospital identification badge. Face down. She picked it up, turned it over. Her breath caught. The photograph showed a young nurse. The name beneath it read, Claire Donovan. Issue date, 9 years ago. Status, missing. Maya looked at Nolan. Neither of them spoke, because they both understood the same terrifying thought. If Claire Donovan disappeared 9 years ago, how had her badge ended up here, looking almost brand new? Behind them, somewhere deep inside the hidden level, a steel door slowly creaked open. Neither of them looked back. They ran. Maya and Nolan stood outside Harbor Point just as the first light of dawn broke across the old building. They had gone underground searching for answers, but they had returned with even more questions. A hidden medical facility, a computer that somehow knew they were there, steel doors that locked on their own, and a hospital badge belonging to Claire Donovan, a woman who was supposed to have disappeared years ago. If Claire had vanished, who left the badge behind? Maya looked down at it one last time, and that's when she noticed something she had completely missed. The plastic wasn't faded. The metal clip wasn't rusted. It looked brand new, which could only mean one thing. Claire Donovan hadn't been gone for years. Someone had been wearing that badge very recently, and somewhere inside Harbor Point, someone knew they had found it. Before we uncover who has been using Claire's identity, I want to hear your theory. Do you think Claire is still alive? Or is someone pretending she never left? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this mystery, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Because in part 3, Maya and Nolan go back underground, and what they discover beneath Harbor Point changes everything.